afternoon. Welcome. I'm Shraddha Babla and you're watching What Did You Miss on Bloomberg Quint Live. Let's go straight to the headlines. Indian markets fell for the fifth day in a row to their lowest level in over 3 weeks, dragged down by private sector lenders and amid global cues. While Tata Motors' third quarter profit comes in below expectations, revenues rise 16%, but JLR disappoints on an operational front. Tata Motors' third quarter profit is a miss. While SingTel pumps in nearly 2650 crores in Bharti Telecom's Airtel holding company. And it's a two-way race for Bhushan Steel. JSW-led consortium and Tata Steel are the only ones to submit final bids. While Amit Shah makes his debut speech in Parliament, hits out at P. Chidambaram, says it is better to sell pakodas than be unemployed. Well, Nifty lost as much as 170 points at the lowest point of the day, but has managed to pare losses to just about half of that. But it's still a fifth straight session of decline for the benchmark index, led by the global sell-off. Let's head over to Neeraj Shah, who's standing by to take us through all the action on the Dalal Street today. Neeraj, the color composition, fortunately, on the screens did change from all red to at least some patches of green by the end of the day.
It was actually a day that was marked by some late resurgence, and frankly, if you look at the large caps, yes, you would think that there was some pain, not a quite bit of pain as it was evident at the start of the day, but some pain. But look at the mid cap and the small cap end of the market, and there was a fair bit of green there. That was really the good surprise. And the market breadth too actually converged to almost close at a respectable level. Not firmly in favor of the declines, let me put it that way. But let's bring up individual names and show you what led the downside. I think HDFC was amongst the principal culprits. That is not to say that L&T was far behind, but HDFC was right up there. HDFC Bank, certain of the private banks like Kotak, IndusInd Bank, not a heavyweight in the truest sense, but corrected quite a bit, and just showed how fragile the private banking stocks were there in the session today. What did really well was the auto names. I think the numbers from Escorts and the commentary thereof, Ashok Leyland numbers and the commentary thereof, very, very positive. Tata Motors ahead of the numbers, closed up about 3%. The numbers came out just about post-market hours, and very interesting to see how this one, the big boy, reacts in the session tomorrow as well. And what was holding fort was Bharti Airtel, which was about 4% higher in the session today on a day when the Nifty fell. Divergent trends for these two. So Vakrangi has been falling and falling for almost all the days. PC went down, remember, intraday 55%, but ending about 16% higher today. So recovering a lot of lost ground. It ended about 21% lower in Friday, up about 16% today. Mid-cap IT did well. Intellect Design 12%, Polaris Consulting 9%, First Source was about 7-8%. So clutch of mid-cap IT names had a fairly decent session. And sugar did really well. There's a proposal by the Food Ministry to hike the import duty, double it to almost 100% by 100% or thereabouts. That's the proposal, and that led to late 1 hour surge in almost all of the sugar names. I've chosen Ugar and Dhampur, but these are just representatives of what happened across the board as well. So good, not a bad day for the mid caps and the small caps in particular. Some pain for the large caps though.
All right, thank you for bringing us all those details, Neeraj. But it is only a bull market facing correction, and that's the word coming in from market veteran Ramesh Damani. Now, in a conversation with Bloomberg Quint earlier today, he said that a correction has been on the cards, but he does not think that there is anything to worry about in the long run. Listen into a slice of that conversation.
Fund flow we've seen come in from retail investors through mutual funds into equity markets over the last 2 years is likely to sustain this year, and notwithstanding cuts like today's, which are temporary. And I think we've seen in the last year or so that retail investors seem to have found the stomach to be able to tide through, some difficult days. But is that momentum something that looks like it will continue? And I think the second part to my question is that typically, since this money is going to a universe of fairly small stocks, right, at the end of the day, how much tougher has it become for these funds to continue offering returns that will keep these investors happy?
Well, that's, Menegas, the million-dollar question. I think the big worry on the Wall Street is that the domestic flow that has been the bulwark of this bull market for the first time in the last 50 years perhaps, may now change because it's no longer that efficient to buy stocks. you're going to be charged 10%. Short term is 15%. There's no great difference between short term and long term. So, investors may say, I'll take my chances in fixed income perhaps because it will do better. So, there is a big risk on the market. The bulwark of the market has been domestic savings, that even when foreigners sold, India could absorb it, and there was no issue about that at all. And you kind of spooked that brilliant play we had going for the last 2-3 years or so. So, clearly, I would be worried about domestic flow. I think it's too early to try and tell what is going to happen in this, but obviously now equities is going to compete with a lot of other asset classes for the investor attention. So we may even see a slowdown. In terms of foreign money, I think there is some chance, because of global economic recovery continuing, foreign money that has been largely going to America and to other countries might come back to India. So that would, help us. In the last 2 days, foreigners have actually bought into India, maybe 1,000 crores on each of the last 2 days. So that has helped us. Menika, all these balls are juggling in the air. I don't think, at least I have the right answers to this. But I can only tell you from my long experience in the Indian market that the Indian economy is on a growth track. I mean, these things will happen and will continue to get derailed over time. But there are businesses that are doing well. There are companies that are doing well. And until proven otherwise, I'm going to remain that this is a bull market. Then this is a correction within that bull market.
Well, on to earnings. Tata Motors' third quarter profit has come in below expectations. Revenues rose 16%, but JLR disappointed on an operational level. Yatin Mota standing by to take us through the Tata Motors performance. Yatin, just how bad are these numbers?
Shraddha, the numbers are weak versus the street expectations, especially the JLR margins, which came in almost 150 basis points lower than the street expectations. Now, let me take you through the consolidated earnings. The revenues were up 16% at a strong, revenue coming in at over 74,000 crores. Profits also growing at a strong 13 times to a level of close to 1,200 crores. This is coming in on the back of low base, which is there last year. Of course, still lower than the street expectations. Of course, the silver lining was that the domestic business saw some good traction. In fact, they have posted profits after quite some time and posting, large losses. So the turnaround plan really working well for the standalone operations. JLR also, I think the margins disappointed, largely due to the fact that there were incentives given to the Chinese distributor and various distributors so that they could phase out the old models, which paved the way for the new launches that they have done starting January. And probably because of that, we have seen some impact on the overall margins. Of course, we'll wait for the management conference call and management commentary as to how really the realizations panned out for JLR and how do they see the things shaping up for JLR moving forward. Of course, the foreign exchange loss or gain details are not there. So probably there could be some adjustments for the entire operating performance of JLR and the consolidated entity. But we'll wait for the management commentary for getting more clarity on the current quarter's results as well as the outlook moving forward.
All right, thank you for bringing us those details, Yatin. There's also news coming in that Tata Motors and Warburg Pincus have decided to call off the transaction in Tata Technologies. So that and the weak numbers or weak performance could probably weigh on the stock tomorrow. It ended about 3% higher today. But on the other hand, Bharti Airtel was the top nifty gainer today after SingTel hiked stake in Bharti Telecom. That's Airtel's holding company. Now, SingTel's investment of 2649 crores values the holding company at more than 1,55,000 crores. Somit Sarkar is here to tell us how much the Singapore-based telecom operator now holds in Airtel in this report. Somit.
Bharti Telecom, that is the promoter of Bharti Airtel, will be issuing around 85.45 million equity shares to Singapore Telecommunications at 310 rupees per share on a preferential basis. Now, the funds raised will be used by Bharti Telecom to reduce its debt. Post this fund infusion, SingTel's ownership in Bharti Telecom will increase to around 48.9%, and as Bharti Telecom is the holding company of Bharti Airtel, SingTel will indirectly increase its stake in Bharti Airtel as a listed entity by around 0.9 percentage points and will own close to 39.5%. Now it will hold around 15% stake through its investment arm, that is Pestel, while the remaining will be the company will hold through Bharti Telecom. Now SingTel's current fund infusion is valuing Bharti Telecom at close to 1,55,821 crore rupees, while Bharti Telecom's 50% stake in Bharti Airtel is valued at only at around 88,000 crore rupees. Now this will be SingTel's second investment in Bharti Airtel in less than 2 years. Earlier in Feb 2016, the company had also participated in the rights issue of close to 2,500 crore, and currently it has infused around 2,650 crore rupees in Bharti Telecom.
All right, thank you for getting us those details, Somit. But when it comes to the Indian economy, there seems to be a pickup in the services activity in India. The Nikkei India Services PMI for the month of January rose to 51.7 against 50.9 in December. Now, this is the highest reading since October 2017 and also the second consecutive expansion for a consecutive month. But remember, when the Purchasing Managers Index is above 50, it indicates expansion, and a value below 50 indicates a contraction in the economy. The manufacturing PMI, on the other hand, fell to 52.4 in January after it hit a 5-year high of 54.7 in December. This pulled the composite PMI to 52.5 against 53 in the previous month. But the Indian commodity exchanges are not too happy about market regulators' decision to allow stock exchanges to begin trading in commodities. The country's largest commodity exchange, MCX, and its peer NCDEX have made a presentation to SEBI in December last year around that stock exchanges like NSE and BSE have a clear advantage over others. Sajid Mangat, who's been speaking to all the players, joins in with the details. Sajid, what do the commodity exchanges feel about the equity bourses, and why do they have an advantage?
That's right. If you look at the announcement made by SEBI at this December board meet, SEBI did come out with an agenda paper and disclosed it to public that as part of the consultation process, the commodity exchanges did want the unified exchanges to be unveiled before 2 to 3 years. One of the major concerns was the lack of level playing field for commodity exchanges. The argument made by commodity exchanges was that the market infrastructure required to go into equity trading does not exist with commodity exchanges, and it would take anyway between 18 to 24 months before they build such an infrastructure, and that time should be given to them before they do that. Remember, the SEBI at its board meet agreed to have allow commodities and stock exchange to enter into each other's territory. That means a stock exchange can enter into equities as well as commodities, and a commodity exchange can come into the equity segment. Now that's something of a big challenge, because from a revenue point of view or from the liquidity point of view, the liquidity will not be there in commodity exchanges. At the same time, for an equity stock exchange which has quite a big cash reserves with them, they can easily go and penetrate into the commodities market. That's one of the concern which was there. That other was the transaction cost for them. The cost of transaction is comparatively higher in commodities exchanges as compared to stock exchanges, and as and when this market gets opened up, there would be pressure on transaction charges, and that would mean pressure on commodity exchanges. So these are some of the concerns which were raised by commodity exchanges because of before the SEBI came out with its final verdict. Now MCX has said that they don't want to go ahead with this debate, and they are preparing themselves for October 1 launch, but at the same time they also wanted the regulators and others to work together to ensure that more products are approved and more intermediaries are onboarded before the October 1 deadline. Shraddha?
All right, thank you for those details, Sajid. We will be tracking developments on that front. But moving on, it's only 2 Indian steel makers which are now in the race for Bhushan Steel. Now, bankers in the know have told Bloomberg Quint that Tata Steel and a consortium led by JSW Steel have submitted final bids for the auto-grade steel makers' assets. Vishwanath Nair joins in with the details. Vishwanath, what's the bid amount, and when will the insolvency professional take a call on the bids?
So over the weekend, over the last weekend, there was a bidding process that was initiated with respect to Bhushan Steel, which closed on Saturday. Now, before the deadline, that was about 6 p.m., only 2 players have actually put in their bids. There was a bid put in by Tata Steel, which has been quite active in the stressed asset market, looking for steel opportunities. There was also a consortium led by JSW Steel, which is actually a 50-50 joint venture between JSW Steel and a fund that is promoted by the Piramal Group as well as Bain Capital. So this consortium, this JSW consortium, has actually bid in about 25 to 30,000 crore. That's what our sources are telling us. They haven't told us what exactly the Tata Steel bid is going to look like. On Tuesday, this tomorrow, the resolution professional in this matter, Vijay Kumar Iyer, who comes from Deloitte, he will be opening both these bids and he will be assessing these bids and will then pass on this information to the lenders. So more or less, we will come to know about specifics of these deals, about the specifics of what exactly Tata and JSW are sort of pitching for Bhushan Steel. These details will come into light over the course of the week. But remember, Bhushan Steel is about 56,000 crore account. It's a large account. That's the amount that it owes its financial creditors. So whatever happens in this case and how the lenders are able to sort of recover the loan amount, as well as how the company is able to resolve its problems, that is something that will be closely watched out. Now, before the whole bidding process closed, there were a lot of market rumors regarding some international companies also looking at Bhushan Steel as a potential investment opportunities, especially companies like Vedanta as well as ArcelorMittal were looking at it, or that's what our sources told us. But ArcelorMittal has confirmed that they did not actually participate in this bidding process at all.
All right, so while the stock did manage to open in the green, it ended with a loss of about 3% or so. And like Vishwanath said, we will have more details tomorrow when the bids are opened. And of course, we will be tracking this story. But thank you for bringing us all those details, Vishwanath. Moving on, in a big setback for JP Infratech, the Supreme Court refused to stay bidding for its assets. Now, the next hearing is scheduled to be on February 12th. We're now being joined by Arpan Chaturvedi, who has been tracking the case very closely. Arpan, what are you picking up?
That's right. So basically, the background of this case is that the Supreme Court had given a go-ahead earlier. After once staying the insolvency process, later they had said that this should go on. And as part of that, process, the bidding process that was there, today was the last day for it. And when the matter came up for hearing, the council requested that the Supreme Court should stay this process, which of course the court said that they will not. That was a setback for JP Infra. Apart from that, they of course made the updates on depositing 550 crores. They said that they had deposited, the total amount they have to deposit is 2,000 crores. So now on next date of hearing, we will know what will going to be happening next. The next date of hearing is 12th Feb. And as far as today is concerned, the main point here was the bidding process of JP Infra, which the court said no.
All right, thank you for bringing us those details, Arpan. But another story that we're tracking is to do with ONGC. Now, ONGC is likely to face a one-year delay at least in starting production from its biggest project. Now, ONGC had planned to produce gas from a deep water block in Krishna Godavari Basin from June 2019. But sources say that it would be able to produce first gas not until the second half of 2020. In fact, ONGC has not completed tendering for major equipment and services for the $5 billion project. The delay means that ONGC is unlikely to start drilling wells until next year. Now, Reliance Industries Limited, which produces gas from an adjoining area, has seen production tumble more than 92% since hitting the peak in 2010. The Indian company and its partner BP have found the reservoir more difficult to produce from what they had initially estimated. Now, OMGC aims to produce 16 million standard cubic meters a day of gas and about 77,000 barrels a day of oil from this block. Now, production from KG Basin is crucial for India's goal to cut oil imports and double the share of gas in India's energy mix to recent. Well, the Supreme Court has told Khap Panchayats to desist from interfering in the marriage of two consenting adults. While hearing a plea seeking a ban on Khap Panchayats and guidelines to stop honor killings, an apex court bench headed by Chief Justice of India said that the Khap Panchayats cannot decide which marriages are good or bad. Lawyers representing Khap Panchayats argued that they were not against intercaste or interreligious marriages, but only opposed to some Gotra marriages. The court has adjourned the matter for February 16th. Meanwhile, BJP President Amit Shah delivered his debut speech in the Rajya Sabha today. While highlighting the work done by the BJP government, Shah also took the opportunity to hit out at the Congress, especially former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram for his comment on the PM's remark on selling pakodas. With Prime Minister Narendra Modi in attendance, Shah said that there was no shame in selling pakodas as it was better than being jobless. Chidambaram said or had tweeted that if selling pakodas was good, then so too was begging.
चिदंबरम साहब का ट्वीट पढ़ रहा था कि मुद्रा बैंक के तहत पकोड़े लगाने का किसी ने ठेला लगा दिया, इसको रोजगारी कहते हैं। हाँ, मैं मानता हूं कि बेरोजगारी से तो अच्छा है कि कोई युवा मजदूरी कर कर मेहनत कर कर पकोड़ा लगा, अपने श्रम परिश्रम से पसीना बहाकर हजारों लाखों करोड़ों युवा जो स्वरोजगारी की दिशा में आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, पकोड़ा बना रहे हैं, छोटी छोटी स्वरोजगारी ले रहे, उसको आप भिक्षुक के साथ कंपेयर करेंगे? किस प्रकार की ये मानसिकता है? सभापति महोदय, पकोड़ा बनाना कोई शर्म की बात नहीं है, इसको भिक्षुक के साथ कंपेयर करना शर्म की बात है।
The Supreme Court has sought BCCI's response on banned cricketer Srishant's plea challenging the life ban imposed on him. Now, Srishant, who has been absolved in the IPL spot fixing case, successfully challenged the life ban in Kerala High Court, but the division bench set aside the verdict and upheld the ban. The cricketer has now challenged the verdict in the Apex Court. The Apex Court has refused to grant him interim relief and has asked him, or asked the BCCI, to file its response within 4 weeks itself. And in news that would disappoint a lot of, at least the youngsters in India, Apple has hiked prices of its phones in India after the government raised the custom duty on mobile devices in the budget. The iPhone X will now cost you 95,390 rupees for the 64 GB version and as much as 1,08,000 rupees for the 256 GB version. You will have to pay between 1,820 to 2,000 rupees more for iPhone 8, while the iPhone 8 Plus will set you back by 2,100 to 2,300 rupees depending on which version you choose. The Apple Watch will also be costlier by roughly 7.9% as customs duty on smartwatches and wearables too have been hiked in the budget. However, prices of the iPhone SE will be the same as it is being assembled in India. And a surprising reversal of stance, a South Korean High Court today let the vice chairman of Samsung Electronics, Jay Lee, to walk free after suspending his prison sentence for bribery. The court reduced Lee's sentence by 2.5 years on Monday. Lee was the highest profile business figure convicted in a graft probe that brought an end to the rule of former South Korean President Park Geun-hye. Stephen Eagle of Bloomberg News sums up the verdict just outside the Korean High Court.
You can both be stunned and not surprised. That's what the reaction is here today, because we're stunned that the High Court, which was reviewing the appellate court process here in the Seoul Central District Court behind me, they haven't exonerated J.Y. Lee. He still has a sentence, but they've allowed him to pretty much walk free. He has already left the courthouse here by a bus to the Seoul Detention Center, where I suspect he'll collect his belongings. He's been there for nearly a year, and Yonhap News Agency is saying the heir apparent, the man who was convicted in the same courthouse in August to a 5-year prison sentence for various corruption charges, he will be able to go home this evening. It is a stunning reversal, because this was of all the different options that the appellate court could have come up with. This was the one that the legal experts said was probably one of the least likely. Of course, second perhaps only to being completely exonerated. So basically what's happened, he's given from a 5-year prison sentence down to a 2.5-year sentence, but that's a suspended sentence and 4 years probation, meaning he can go home. Let me just quote what the court said. There is no evidence that the defendants had requested or gained benefits from offering bribery to now ousted President Park Geun-hye. He was also found not guilty, though, of hiding assets overseas. So it's quite a stunning reversal, if you will, today here in Seoul.
And Jerome Powell will be sworn in later today as the 16th chairman of Federal Reserve. He is inheriting a U.S. economy in its third longest expansion on record, with unemployment and inflation near historically low levels. The nation's unemployment rate has fallen to 4.1%. That's less than half its crisis-era peak. That's well below the levels believed to provoke higher wages and inflation. Meanwhile, Angela Merkel's alliance talks with the Social Democrats to form the new government in Germany has breached a Sunday deadline. Now, the key areas of difference between the two parties concerned together or tighter rules on temporary work contracts and overhauling the pay for doctors. More than 4 months have gone since Merkel's Christian Democratic-led bloc won an inconclusive national election. While it's tricky times for British Prime Minister Theresa May, as the ongoing Brexit talks have deepened divide within the Conservative Party, popular pro-Brexit lawmaker Jacob Rees-Mogg has accused the Treasury of fiddling the figures to make leaving the bloc look bad. Civil servants union have also attacked the lawmaker. Now, some of the hard Brexit lawmakers have also expressed concern that May is plotting to keep Britain inside of some form of customs union post-Brexit. And with that, it's a wrap on this show. I hope we helped you catch up on all that you missed through the day. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint Live.
Life's so lovely, live life happily. Oh.